Hello and welcome back to Suspended Animation. This is Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 4. Still no freaking title because they haven't released it as of yet. Actually, they have released it someplace. I just don't know where the hell to look for it. So it takes a couple hours after the episode is aired to actually find the damn thing because HBO is being so secretive about it. So yeah, we only have 2 episodes left. Damn. So there we go. So one of the things I've been hearing, also, I just wanted to get this out of the way first before we do this, is people are going to other channels afterwards after watching this and giving off, some of my theories and stuff like that in other channels. I don't mind that, just as long as you attribute them to me. Thank you very much. If you could say as seen on or something like that. That would be very grateful to you doing that for me. With that said, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the shit out of this episode. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it. Come on back. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, again for that. And I will answer everyone's questions, not in the order they were received, but later on after everything has been done. So, all right. Yeah, exactly, Viking Bitch. Give me a little bit of credit, Thanks, Joe Greer. Yes, we will. Viking Bitch, he knighted her with his sword and then he knighted her. Yeah. All right. So basically, we open up with the huge funeral. And I mean, this was a huge freaking funeral because there was a lot of people that died. So we see Jorah being put to rest, and Dany's, of course, saying her goodbyes, and Sansa saying her goodbye to Theon, and putting the Stark sigil on his, on his vest, of course, before they torch his body. And we finally see Ghost. Ghost actually made it, but Ghost is all kind of beaten up. We see some blood down Ghost's coat. And John addresses everyone that's there and basically says, if it wasn't for these people, we'd all be fucking dead. So we owe them a debt for them giving their lives to do what we did, to give us enough time to kill the Night King, essentially. And so we see pretty much every single major character except for, Sansa and I forget, I guess Tyrion was the only two that didn't get torches. And they go and light up the pyres, the funeral pyres that everyone's laying on. And the smoke is so much that it actually fills the sky around Winterfell. That's how big it is. Yeah, Ghost looked really roughed up. Yeah, he had a little ear that was burned too. So yeah, he did a really great speech. I mean, that was kind of one of those rip-rousing kind of speeches that you'd say before battle. And I was surprised. I was like, all right, John, man, there you go. Yes, we'll find out how many people they lost here in a little bit. So they're having a feast, of course, afterwards to celebrate that they've actually won against the Night King. And pretty much everyone's getting pissed drunk at this point. And I love how Gendry goes and sits down by the Hound and asks where Arya is. And he says, she's not here. He goes, if you're looking to get some more, pretty much, he goes, damn it, man, you can still smell the bodies burning. And he goes, and all you can think about is, getting some more of that. And Gendry was like, no, that's not what I meant. I wasn't going. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Get the fuck out of here. So Gendry gets up and he's walking away. And Dany's, of course, sees him there and says, wait a minute. Isn't your father the one who killed my father? And hey, rough girl, how's it going? And he goes, yeah, but I didn't know he was my father until after all that had happened. And she goes, well, then who in the hell is in charge of Storm's End? And he goes, I don't know. And she goes, well, considering that you were his last, since you're his known son, you're taking on his name and you're now going to be the Lord of Storm's End. So he is now Gendry Baratheon, and he is the Lord of Storm's End. And of course, everyone toasts him to that. And, and of course, Tyrion says to Dany's, he goes, that's a good move. He goes, that's a good reward. And also he'll be loyal to you for life. And she goes, I have a few tricks up my sleeve kind of thing. She says, I'm smart too. kind of thing, which was kind of nice. We see Jamie and Brienne having a drink, and Davos talks to Tyrion, of course, about wanting to kill the Red Woman. What that he told her that he would kill her on sight once he saw her again, but she had other plans, of course. And so he says, "I'm glad that that's over with." And then he turns to his thoughts about Dany and says, "Well, what about what's going on there? With her being queen and everything." What's going to happen after we fight with Cersei's and everything is said and done? And Tyrion's like, yeah, we just need to let that play out and find out what's going to happen. Yeah. So Tyrion goes and talks to Bran and, admires his wheelchair that he's got. And he goes, yeah, it's one that was built 120 years ago for another man built it for his son, who was also an invalid as well. And he goes, I like that design a little bit better than the sling that you built me for Hodor. And he's like, well, you know a lot about the history of this place, huh? And our history. He goes, that's going to come in handy later on down the line. And then he also tells him, he goes, well, now you're the Lord of Winterfell because you're the last known son of Ned Stark. And Bran's like, I don't want that. And he goes, too bad. You actually, have that now. And he's like, I kind of envy you, is what Tyrion says. And Bran says, why do you envy me? Because I lived mostly in the past. Yeah, exactly, Fenobi. Which is very interesting that he lives mostly in the past. I'm wondering what he was doing when he was, had his eyes all white there and all that kind of stuff. If he was doing some more past searching or what was going on. Maybe he knows how the Night King came about. Yeah, Bran is kind of like a computer now. He's got all the memory of everything. So toasts are going all around, of course, and the toast to Arya for killing the Night King, and everyone cheers. And of course, she's nowhere to be found. And the Hound's like, yeah. He kind of waves it off. Tormund is going around, and he basically is praising Jon, saying, what a tough son of a bitch he is, that he comes back from death, and he keeps fighting. He goes, and who in the hell is crazy enough to jump on the back of a dragon and keep fighting? And he's saying this right next to Dany, and Dany's like looking at him like, yeah, motherfucker, I did the same thing. I was riding on the back of a dragon as well, fighting. She goes, I did the exact same thing that Jon did, and he was actually scared to get on top of the dragon. She goes, I wasn't, is what she's thinking. You could see all this stuff going through her mind. And I agree with you, Viking bitch. I'm starting to think that maybe this is her descent into madness. Maybe it's a genetic trait that that they have, that Targaryens have. And yeah, it was kind of a little bit messed up. And she's seeing everybody gathering around Jon and admiring Jon, and she's sitting all by herself. No one's coming over to her. No one's congratulating her. No one's doing, saying anything to her, except for Tyrion. Tyrion was, and also Varys is kind of looking at her too, because he's keeping a watchful eye on her, because that's his job. And he's a little bit worried about her. And then we see that Tyrion, Jamie, Brienne, and Podrick are all playing a drinking game about, you say something about the person, and if that's true, then you lose, of course, and you have to take a drink. But if it's, something that is true about them, they have to take a drink. And of course, Tyrion has to say, he looks at Brienne and goes, you're a virgin. You've never been a man. I've been with a man. And Podrick drinks right away. Which I thought was pretty funny. Truth or drink, exactly. And Brienne just kind of looks at him like death stare. And she's like, I've got to take a piss. She gets up and yeah, the look on Jamie's face too, exactly. Oof, man. And then Tormund, of course, coming by as well, and just getting in the fray of everything, because he's going around all the time here. Oh my god. And we find out actually when Tormund comes by the table that Brienne hasn't been drinking her drink. Tyrion actually grabs her cup. He pours the entire thing into Tormund's horn that he's got his drinking horn, and clinks his cup. Yeah, she was very embarrassed, but also she was not playing the game at all at this point. Um, yeah, not a good thing for Tyrion to do. And oh man, and I love that. We've got Tormund going by the Hound there, and he's trying to get the Hound involved in things, and these two girls come up, and she says, "I'm not afraid of the wild things," and Tormund just looks at her and goes, "Maybe you should be." Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Tormund going by and goes, "And I want to find the bastard who shit in my pants." And then he starts laughing because he shit in his own pants, of course. And it's like, wow, dude, really? I mean, come on. I know you're wilding and everything, but seriously, dude, just go outside, take a crap, come on back in. You can still party. You can drink while you're shitting too if you really need to. And then, of course, having Sansa after the Hound shoes off the woman that was trying to get with him, of course. Sansa comes by and she starts talking to him about how much they've changed and how much she's changed and all the bad shit that's happened to her. And he's like, "Yeah, I heard you got broken." And he's trying to be very crass with her. And she's like, "Yeah, I don't give a shit." She goes, "I've been through enough shit as it is." And she kind of takes his hand and says, "If I hadn't gone through all of that stuff, I would still be that little bird for the rest of my life," is what she tells him. And yeah, Sansa is very sneaky, rough girl. I admit. So yeah, it's very interesting. And so Gendry ends up finding Arya downstairs, of course, where he found her the first time, and she is shooting arrows at targets. That's how she's celebrating, is by, of course, practicing, because practice makes perfect, right? Having take a little drink there to lubricate the old tubes. And of course, he tells her that he loves her, that he's now a lord, and he wants her to be her, his lady. And she kisses him and says, "Oh," she goes, "You're going to make a great lord, but I've never been a lady, and I never will be," is what she says. Yes, Pen, that is Saki. It is. Oh man, and of course, that's not for her, is being a lady, and we leave him at that. Jamie, in the meantime, goes to Brienne's room, knocks on the door, and he says, "You weren't drinking during the game." And he's drunk off his ass, and he brings her some wine. And he says, "What are you doing in here?" He goes, "There's always a fire." And she goes, "That's the first thing I learned in the North, is when you leave a room, you put more wood on, you never let the fire die." And he goes, "The first thing I learned when I got to the North, I hate the fucking North." She goes, "You can get used to it. And then he says, "It's getting hot in here." And he starts trying to undo his shirt. And she goes, "Here, let me help you with that." Because he's only got one hand, of course. And she starts undoing his shirt. And he starts undoing her shirt. And she's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And he looks at her and goes, "I've never been with a knight." And she goes, "I've never been with a man." And he says, "Well, according to the game, we have to take a drink." And of course, they end up kissing and making out and going straight to bed. Yes, there we go. Danny, in the meantime, finds John in his room and says, "Are you drunk?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "I'm not." He goes, "Maybe a little." And she tells him that she loves him, and they start to undress. They start kissing and dressing and all that stuff. And then John stops, and she says, and he turns from her, and she says, "You know what? I wish you had never told me." She goes, "Then I would have been happy." And then she says, "I saw the way the people gathered around you and looked at you." And she says, "You didn't want to be king of the North, but you were kind of pushed into that." She goes, "If you tell everybody who you are, if you tell them all this information now, they're going to want you to be the ruler of the seven kingdoms, of course." And he goes, I can give it to you." He goes, "I'll bend the knee." And she goes, "Doesn't matter how many times you bend the knee." She goes, "They're not going to want me. They're going to want you in that place." And she goes, "Even your sister is going to, not want me there as well. She doesn't like me." And he says, "No, no." He goes, "I'll talk to Sansa. Everything will be fine." And she goes, "No, she's different than what she was before." And she tells him to tell Sam to swear him to secrecy. And he, of course, is not going to do that. Of course. So we go to the next day and we see everyone at the planning table, and we see half of all the armies are gone. So basically, all their armies have been wiped out in by half. So now they're the equal of Cersei's army that she's got going on, or so they think, because they don't know about the gold company going on there too. So, yeah, Danny is right. You're right, Viking bitch. But at the same time, um, and John is very naive. John is super naive. That's why I don't think he would make a good king either. And it needs to be somebody else entirely different. I don't know who that would be. Maybe Tyrion. Who knows? I don't know. So we find out that the Iron Island has been claimed by Yara. She's gone back and claimed the Iron Island. Try and say that 3 times fast. And they suggest surrounding King's Landing to starve them out. And Danny's like, no. I want to press this. She goes, I want to get this thing over with as soon as possible because my enemies back home are building in strength while I'm not there. And she goes, that's not what I didn't come here to have a long drawn out siege. She says, I came here to just end this war and get it over with. And and they're like, well, if you do that, if you try and just go in and take over everything, you're going to destroy King's Landing and a lot of innocent people, and that's not freeing them. And everyone's trying to talk her out of this at this point. And then John says, she's your queen, do what she says, pretty much. And everyone just kind of looks at him like, what the fuck? And they're like, okay, everyone break. We're going to take everyone's good. We're good here, right? And just as they're about to leave, Arya grabs John and says, we need to have a little talk. So by we, she means her, Sansa, and Bran out by the weird tree. And they basically are talking to him that she's not our queen. That the only reason why we used her was because she had an army and she had dragons, and we needed that in order to get through the Night King and his army. And she goes, and now that they're pretty much almost decimated, we're going to we need them to basically just surround Cersei and end that. So by just going through, we're if we try and just rush things, we're going to obliterate everything and our chances, of course. And John says that they will never trust her. And, basically he says, you need to trust her, trust her like I do. And they're like, we don't know her like that, And he says, well, I'm not even a Stark in the first place. And they're like, yes, you are. You're our brother. And he goes, no. He goes, you don't understand. And then he looks at Bran, and Bran says, it's your decision what you want to tell them. And he says, I need you to swear to secrecy. And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't know what we're going to swear to. And he goes, no, I need you to swear to secrecy first before I tell you this, that you're never going to tell another soul. And they finally agree. And then he turns to Bran and goes, okay, tell him about, my my heritage at this point. Yeah, he isn't Bran anymore. He is the three-eyed raven. That's true. Exactly. So Jaime and Tyrion, of course, are drinking because that's what Lannisters do. Lannisters do, excuse me. And who walks in but Bronn? And Bronn's got his, he's got the crossbow. And he's a little bit pissed. And he goes, you know what? He goes, you fuckers are going to pay up at this point. And Tyrion tries to, of course, talk him, sweet talk him. And he goes, shut up, or I'm going to punch you in the nose. Tyrion keeps talking. So what does he do? He punches him in the nose. He goes, you broke my nose. He goes, you know what? He goes, I didn't break your nose. He goes, I know what a nose break sounds like. I've been doing it since I was your height. Which I thought was a good burn on that one. But at the same time, he says, Cersei gave me River Run to off the two of you. What are you going to do? What are you going to offer me that's going to be better than that? Because Tyrion reminds, Bronn that they had a very early on deal that if ever he was asked to kill Tyrion, that Tyrion would double whatever the offer was. And he goes, well, what's going to be more double than, River Run? And so Highgarden is what he offers. He says, I'll give you Highgarden. And Jaime's like, fuck that. He's not getting Highgarden. And that's when the bolt goes off. and hits the wall. He goes, he's not going to kill us, what Jamie says. And of course, the bolt hits the wall, and Bronn reloads and says, yeah, I would kill you fuckers in a minute. He goes, I don't care. He goes, all I know is that when I saw those dragons, I knew Cersei was on the wrong end of this war, that she was going to lose. And she goes, I just need, guarantees that I'm going to be paid at the end of all of this. So they agree, because they say, hey, a lot can happen during this war. And they want him to come in as a general and all this stuff. He goes, no. He goes, I'm sitting this one out. He goes, I've done enough fighting as it is. He goes, I'm sitting back. And he goes, you guys do the work. And when it's done, then I'm not going to kill you if you win. And I'll get Highgarden. And if you lose, I get Riverrun. So either way, it's a win-win. I like him. He's actually very, very practical at this point. In the meantime, the Hound is riding south. He's riding towards, King's Landing. And who ends up riding up next to him but Arya? And Arya says, oh, he's like, fuck. First he goes, fuck. He goes, I can't get away from you, kind of thing. And she says, oh, well, you know what? We're both heading in the same direction. So this is where we're going. And he goes, well, why are you going to King's Landing? She goes, I have unfinished business. How about you? I do too. So that's what they're doing. Yeah, but my killing days aren't over. Exactly. So we see that both of the dragons are actually fine. One is a little bit injured, but still able to fly and in fairly decent shape. And we see Dany with both of them and making sure everything's good. And we see them fly up over the castle and Sansa watching them. And Tyrion comes out and he talks to her about Dany being queen. And she keeps saying that it's his queen, not her queen. And he goes, no. You need to accept this and be friends with her. And she goes, you're afraid of her, aren't you? And he goes, yeah, a little bit. He goes, it's always good to have a little bit of fear from, your rulers. You need that. And she doesn't trust her at all and basically tells him so. And he says, you know what? You don't know her like I know her. You've seen her people fight for her. There's a reason why the people will risk her life for her. And he says, you just need to give her a chance. And he turns to walk away from her. And Sansa says, well, what if there was someone else, someone better, a different choice to rule the Seven Kingdoms? Yeah. So now the secret's going out even wider at this point, even though she was told not to say anything. And of course, she tells the loudest mouth that she could about this. Yeah. Oh, man. So Tormund, in the meantime, is telling Jon he's getting ready to head back north. And he's like, yeah, he goes, the wall's down. We can go, back as far, as much as we want to. He goes, good luck in your, thing that you're doing to the south. He goes, but we're not coming with you. And so Jon says, hey, can you take Ghost with you? Because Ghost does not belong here in the south. And, a dire wolf does not belong down here. And so Tormund agrees to take Ghost with him and says his goodbyes. And who else shows up but Sam and Gilly, and they're going to leave as well. Or they're saying goodbye to Jon anyway. And as they're hugging, he looks at Gilly and he looks down at her belly and she nods yes. And she's pregnant. So, and Sam, of course, is explaining like all the cold nights. There's nothing really to do. They raided the stores. And she goes, he knows how it happened. And then Gilly says, we want to name him Jon if he's a boy. And he goes, I hope it's not a boy. I hope it's a girl, is what Jon says, which was kind of nice. So Jon and Davos end up riding out south out of the gate, heading towards King's Landing. Let's see one more time here. There we go. So we see Grey Worm and Sandry up on the deck of the ship, and they're sailing towards King's Landing, of course. And Tyrion is telling Varys about Jon's secret, because, of course, why not? Because he tells everybody else. So Varys is like, how many people know this? Excuse me. And he says, including us, 8. And he goes, well, that's no longer a secret. That's information. And he goes, pretty soon it's going to be 100, and pretty soon it's going to be well known. So, damn, at that point. And he has a great point. I mean, because at this point, the information just keeps getting out there more and more. And Tyrion suggests that they marry, just marrying them. And Varys actually tells him, he says, well, the North does not allow a person to marry their aunt. And since she is his aunt, that's not going to fly in the North, and it's not going to be recognized at that point. And so, yeah, they're trying to figure out how, who's going to take over at this point. And it's going to be a problem, essentially. So we see Dany's flying with the dragons up in the sky, flying over the ships. And suddenly this bolt comes flying out of nowhere and hits the injured dragon in the chest. And it screams, and it's still staying aloft. And then we see another bolt, gigantic bolt, hit its wing, grazing it. And then we see a third bolt go through its neck, and it goes crashing down into the water. And that's when we see Euron on the ships on the Iron Fleet with these gigantic crossbows, and all the ships are outfitted with them. And she gets pissed and starts flying towards him, and they all release their bolts, and she turns the last moment, of course, dodging all the bolts, and flies away. So what does he do? He turns the bolts towards the ships. Yeah. And just starts obliterating the shit out of those ships. We see Tyrion go overboard, and the last thing he sees is a mast coming down and basically hitting him in the head. We see Grey Worm and a couple others get washed up on shore, and Grey Worm is looking for Missandei. He keeps screaming out her name, and we don't see her. We don't know where she is at this point. So we see Euron. He's back at King's Landing. He's telling Cersei what happened, and she goes, "Are you sure that the dragon was dead?" He goes, "I saw it crash into the water myself." And he says, we have Qyburn, of course, telling them that the people want to be let into the Red Gates and for protection. And she goes, no, let's just leave the gates open. She goes, if they want to come toward, through us or to us, they're going to have to go through a lot of innocent people, is what she says. So Cersei, of course, is back to her evil ways. Well, she's never really left them, tell you the truth. Yeah. And we see that they have Missandei in chains, of course. And breaker of chains, she says, indeed. And it's like, damn, man. Dany was way too impatient. And just, I don't know why she just rushed into this thing. Yes, you have 2 dragons, but obviously they know about your dragons and they've had a little bit of time. Yeah, it was really stupid of her to do that. But hey, she wants to get back to other stuff at this point. So we see Tyrion and Varys. We see Varys, of course, trying to talk Dany out of what she's doing. He tells her, he goes, "Remember I said I would tell you to your face if what you were doing was a mistake." And he goes, "And what you're doing is a mistake." And he says, again, this is no way to take this place. He goes, you're going to kill everybody. No one's going to like you at this point, and you're going to have a tough time ruling if you kill everyone in King's Landing, just to get at Cersei at this point. And she doesn't agree. She wants to go in and basically kill everybody at this point. Yeah. So Tyrion and Varys start talking about treason, essentially, against Dany and putting maybe even Jon up on the throne at this point. And they keep going back and forth, and Varys says that he is actually there for the people, for the kingdom, or as he says, and will act in the people's best interest no matter the personal costs. And Tyrion just keeps saying, well, why don't we just marry them? Why don't we just marry them? Is what he keeps, the only thing he falls back on. And yeah, that's not going to help at this point. So they're kind of at an impasse about what to do about her. Because, she's a little headstrong at this point, actually a lot headstrong. Jon is leaving it up to her. Everyone else is just pretty much, going with what she's going with at this point. So I don't know. In the meantime, Sansa updates Jaime on what happened with the ambush of the dragons. And she says, she really wanted to be there when Cersei was executed, when they executed his sister, but probably won't get the chance. And we see Brienne wake up in an empty bed. Jaime was with her, and She wakes up to an empty bed. She goes down to the stables and sees Jamie, packing up his horse, getting ready to leave and going back to King's Landing. She goes, well, what are you doing? She goes, you can't save her, and you're just going to basically end up killing yourself. If you go there, you're going to die with her, essentially. And he's like, I have to save her, kind of thing. And Brienne is saying, you're a good man, stay with me, stay here. She's pleading with him, and he goes, I'm not a good man. Then he tells her everything that he's done for Cersei. He pushed a kid out of a window. He killed all these people at River Run. He would have murdered all kinds of people in Cersei's name for her. And that means he is not a good man. And as he puts it, he says, she's hateful and so am I. And he leaves her crying. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So King's Landing has a whole bunch of giant crossbows, of course, sitting on top of all the towers, just waiting there. And we see Dany and her small entourage show up at the gates because they're doing the terms of the battle. They're bringing that out. And we see Tyrion there, and he walks up to the front gate, and we see Qyburn come out, and they start talking to give terms. And of course, he says that Cersei is to surrender and give up Missandei safe and sound. And Qyburn says, no, we want Dany's to surrender or Missandei dies, kind of thing, here and now. And since he can't get anywhere with Qyburn, he just passes him up and starts walking up to the gate. We have all the archers knock their arrows there and are pointing them at him. And Cersei raises her hand. She's thinking about it. And she has them stand down. And he talks to her and he goes, I know you don't like your people and they don't like you. He goes, but one thing you did love is you loved your children. You loved your children more than anything else. And he goes, save yourself. He goes, you're not a monster. Save yourself and your child is what he does. He tries to appeal to her at this point. And she thinks about it for a second, walks over to Missandei and says, if you have any last words, now is the time to say them. Which is really kind of cold-blooded. And Missandei knows she's about to die and says, Dracarys. That's her final word. Which is, of course, the word to have the dragon burn the shit out of everything. So she's just saying, burn the motherfucker down, is what she's saying. The Mountain pulls out his sword and chops off Missandei's head. Grey Worm can't look, of course. Tyrion turns away, disappointed in his sister, and walks back. Daenerys looks up at her and just looks at her for a second, then gets pissed and turns and walks away. Walks away. There we go. And that's where we leave off. So I guess we have war happening in the next 2 episodes. The final 2 episodes of the season and the series. Cersei won't show with Satan. Viking Bitch says Dany's mistake number 3, going to Cersei and demanding surrender. Now that Missandei is dead, she has all this rage that will cloud the judgment. Yeah, she's always led with her feelings and not with her head, quite honestly. And you think she would have learned by this by now. She's done this quite a few times where she's led with her head, or led with her feelings and not with her head. And she always ends up getting fucked. Then she realizes what she needs to do, uses her head, and then wins. And yeah, how she stayed alive all this time, I have no clue, quite honestly. And it's not because of the dragons, that's for damn sure. Oh, man. Well, Viking Witch says Dany's mistake number 2. How did the dragons not see the trap? She is letting her emotions get in the way and making too many mistakes. Exactly. Oh, where else am I? I'm just scrolling up here and see what is going on here. Yeah, we have Viking Bitch says Dany used to be my favorite character, but this is the beginning of the end for her. Yes, talked about that. Joe Greer the third says maybe Arya will Jaime's face if she kills Cersei. That would be interesting. Although it'd be kind of hard for her to get that height going, because she's like half the size of Jaime. So unless you got some really good stilts going on. Brienne was embarrassed. Yes, she was. Podrick had to volunteer for his magic sword. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. So Podrick, obviously, the night of the feast was no longer a virgin because, yeah, something got thrown down there. Joker the Third says the Hound is going to throw down with his zombie brother. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting showdown to see the Mountain and the Hound going at it again. Viking Bitch says Tormund telling everyone you shit your pants is not the way to woo a woman like Brienne. Exactly. He had zero game with. Well, he knew that there was nothing going to happen with her at this point. She has been turning him down left and right, and he tried everything he could, even his giant story about suckling on the teat of a giant's wife that he killed when he was 10 years old, and that's how he became huge, and that didn't work. It even caused poor Davos to drink at that point because he was like, yeah, I'm not going to drink. And he's like, fuck it, give me a drink after that. Yes, exactly. Vomiting is not celebrating. And as someone else said, yes, it is. After something like this, it's not celebrating unless you're vomiting. Movie Fanobi says, well, rough, he's only got one hand and three legs. But bumps. There we go. Movie Fanobi says, Sansa spreading the seeds of truth. Notice how much more like Littlefinger she is. Yeah, she has been getting much more adept. She learned a lot from Littlefinger. She learned a lot from everything that she's gone through. And like she said, she's no longer the little bird anymore. She is not that poor little helpless bird. She has very much learned how to take control of things and how to bend things to her will. I mean, she had Tyrion as a teacher. She had Littlefinger as her teacher. She had a lot of people that were very, very good at, an adept at lying as her teacher. So don't be surprised if she is in the running for the Iron Throne there at the end of all of this. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with Arya as her right hand. Killing people and all that stuff. I could see that happening. Let's see here. All Rough says Danny has the female vibe we all know when women don't like us. We know shade when it's thrown at us. Interesting. Let's see. Okay, talked about that. All Rough says Cersei always has a backup like female killers with VD. That's a good one. Movie Fanobi says the Hound. If I'm wounded again, will you leave me? Yeah. If I'm wounded, will you leave me for dead? She goes, yeah, of course. Is what she says to the Hound. I do like that about her. Let's see here. We'll go back down, see what people are saying now. Where is Podrick? Podrick was out getting laid, is what he was doing. So Dante S says, I really like this episode, the Mad Queen getting her ass kicked. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's going on the Mad Queen route. Good night, Movie Fanobi. Let's see. Dante S says the spider has already turned and found his new ruler. Caesar Augustus prediction: Danny will go full Mad Queen and John will kill her and abolish the Iron Throne, finally free the North. That would be cool. Yeah. All Rough says I think Warrior will be all broke up if she does make it, but I'm not expecting all Starks to make it in the end. No, I don't think all Starks are going to make it in the end, but Bran is definitely going to make it because he's a three-eyed raven. He can't die at this point unless he passes it on to somebody else before he dies. If that's what he was doing, I think that might have been what he was doing when he was all doing the weirding thing or whatever. Is he might have been passing it on to the next generation. I don't know. Because wasn't that what the old three-eyed raven said when he was passing it on to him later on? didn't he say something about that he was only living in the past now? I think that's what he was doing. Now I think about it, he could have been passing it on to somebody else, knowing that his days were ending. That could be the way. Yeah. Dante S says, did Giant's Bane go back to the wall or just to the castle black? So John can't call on him when he needs it. He said he was going back to the wall. He says now that the wall was down, that they could actually go back up to the north. So he was heading back. And now, of course, that there are no more dead up there, they should be okay. All Rough says, I'm really wanting Bran to bite it out for just for GP because I'm so frustrated. Okay. All right. So Mufino, he says Sansa could be my queen, Arya and Brienne flanking her, and there will be YouTube content for the rest of the year. Yeah, I know. You have all the yeah, just all the people who that was the other thing too about the best thing that I read about Arya was people were going, wait a minute, how could she train for 8 years and then get all these ninja-like skills and kill somebody? That's not, that's not reasonable. That's not right. It's like, yeah, Batman fucking sucks, man. Because Batman went through the exact same thing. Bruce Wayne, went for training for 8 years with ninjas and assassins and all that shit and became Batman. There you go. So you can't discount one and discount the other. You can't discount one and then hold the other one to a high esteem. So it's got to be equal at that point. It's the same damn thing, man. She just went Batman on us. That's all it was. All Rough says, I know that that's dark. I'm sorry. I just want to hear the content if that happens. Declared dead. I don't know what that was about. What was that in reference to, Joker the Third? Sorry, I missed that. So if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button. You can also hit the like button. I would like that as well. And if you don't like what you see, you can also hit the dislike button. I don't mind you doing that as long as you go down the comment section and tell me what it is you don't like. A lot of you motherfuckers have been hitting the dislike button and not saying what it is. Give me some constructive criticism. You can also hit the bell to see when I'm going to be on live again. And you can go into the bell settings and get as much or as little as notifications as you want. You still have a 50-50 chance of that actually happening because that's YouTube. You can see when my next video is going to be up my next live stream is going to be. I have it up on suspendedfanimation.com. That is my website. I also have it up on Facebook. I also have a Twitter and I also have an Instagram, which I haven't been posting much of stuff on my Instagram. So there we go. And if you're still on the fence, there's going to be a video that pops up here. It's going to pick one video from my library that most meets your taste. And if you like what you see there, then you can hit the subscribe button. That's going to be over here. Oh, like Bruce Wayne, Joker. Got it. Declared dead like Bruce Wayne. Got it. Dante S says, I agree. I had no issue with Arya killing the Night King. They set it up the entire series that all you had to do was kill one guy. Exactly. And that's what she did. I actually watched it again right beforehand because, they play them back to back. And John did actually scream out go. He screams out go 3 times. And it looks like he saw her in the distance. And and even one of the Night King's generals, when she's whizzing by, he kind of turns to look because he looks down. He sees the wind, he feels the wind kind of pass him. He looks down, but really slowly because she's already passed him by that point. And she was just hauling ass right past everybody and just jumps and stabs at him. So I thought that was actually pretty good. And yes, happy Cinco de Mayo to everybody out there, for those of you who are celebrating such a thing. Viking Bitch says, Varys actually said tonight, cocks are important, but for all of those complaining about Arya, that should shut them up. I thought that was kind of funny too. Yeah, cocks are important. All Rough says, good night. We love you. Who? That's not my name, Ruff. I don't know what you're talking about. My name's Dennis. Anyway, Yeah, I've let you guys go on for too long. I know those of you on the East Coast need to get to bed. Yeah, it's okay. All right, I know. Good night, Moon. Good night, June. Good night, any sense of normalcy at this point. So anyway, again, if you're still on the fence, take a look at the videos, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you to everybody who joined me in the chat tonight. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the Tick Season 2, Episode 5 is what we've got going on. Wednesday is going to be Happy. Thursday is going to be iZombie. Hopefully it doesn't suck, like it did last week. And Friday, of course, is Doom Patrol. And Saturday is going to be Saturday Morning Blast Off. Yes, I know I preempted it this week, but we're going to have it again next week. So there you go. All right, Pen Farm Girl. Yeah, you finally finished the Tick. Good stuff, I know, but we'll get to that. So with that said, take a look at the videos, hit the subscribe button. I will talk to you guys tomorrow night. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find yourself riding horseback with the Hound all the way to King's Landing, which isn't as cheery as it might sound. Good night, everybody.